She found a ring I wasn't supposed to have. I never thought I'd be standing outside her apartment, watching the sunlight spill across her balcony, trying not to let my heart betray me. But here I was, 23, with more questions than confidence. And her, well, she was everything I wasn't supposed to want. She moved like she owned the space without trying, and somehow the air around her felt warmer, heavier, more alive. I rang the doorbell twice. The chime echoed through the quiet hallway, and I shifted my weight from one foot to the other, like a kid caught somewhere between fear and hope. She opened the door before I could knock again. Her hair caught the sunlight, a soft halo that made her 40-something years somehow vanish. She smiled, not just polite, but that curve of lips that made my chest tighten, and I felt my brain scramble for words I didn't have. "Hey," I said. Simple. Stupid. My hands felt clammy. "Hey," she replied, and the word was drawn out, like she was savoring the sound of me saying it. She leaned against the doorframe, one hip slightly cocked, and I realized I hadn't blinked since I saw her. The apartment smelled faintly of coffee and lavender. Old books lined the shelves, but it wasn't cluttered. It was lived in, like every object had a story. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I wondered if she had stories she never told anyone. Stories I would want to hear. "I brought you something," I said, fumbling the small velvet box in my pocket. My throat was dry, my pulse a relentless drum. She raised an eyebrow. "Oh," the tilt of her head, the sparkle in her eyes. God, I was in trouble. I'd seen her around the neighborhood, sure, but this was intimate, dangerous, and yet I couldn't look away. I held out the box. She took it, her fingers brushing mine. Just a brush, but enough to set a current racing through me that I couldn't contain. She opened it and froze. "Oh," her voice caught, softer than she intended. Her fingers hovered over the delicate ring inside, a simple band with a tiny diamond glinting like it knew secrets I didn't. I wasn't supposed to have it, I admitted, swallowing hard. I found it and I thought. I stopped. Because what could I say? That I wanted her to keep it? That I've been thinking about her more than anyone my age should? That maybe, just maybe, I couldn't let her go? She looked at me like she could see straight through all the lies I hadn't spoken. There was something soft and sharp in her eyes, recognition, maybe, or a hint of the longing I could feel myself. "Why did you bring it to me?" Her voice was low, trembling just a little. Not with fear, not exactly, but with something raw, like she was testing herself as much as me. I swallowed again, because I couldn't keep it, not from you. We stood there, the air thick with a quiet neither of us knew how to break. My chest ached in a way I hadn't felt before, and I realized I didn't care about pretending anymore. Not with her. Not ever. Then, just as I reached out, just as I thought maybe she'd let me in, there was a sharp chime from her phone, a message flashing across the screen. Her eyes darted to it, her smile faltering. She hesitated, and that single pause, the way her lips pressed together, the subtle narrowing of her gaze, was enough to make my stomach drop. I didn't know who it was from or what it said, but I knew, right then, that nothing would ever be simple again. And somehow, that was the part of this I couldn't stop wanting. I stayed in the doorway longer than I should have. She hadn't asked me to come in, but the way she held the ring, like it belonged to a past she didn't want to let go of, made me ache. I could feel her pulse, quick and soft, through her fingers. And somewhere in me, I knew I shouldn't be here. But the pull was stronger than reason. "I should probably go," I said, but my voice sounded smaller than I intended. "Stay," she murmured, almost without thinking. Her eyes flicked toward the couch, and then back at me, searching, vulnerable, hesitant. That vulnerability, so rare in her, made my chest tighten. I had been careful in the past, always. Flings that ended before they could begin, safe crushes on faces I wouldn't have to see again. But she wasn't safe. She wasn't just some fleeting distraction. She was the kind of woman whose presence left a mark, whose absence haunted the spaces she left behind. I knew I shouldn't want her. Hell, part of me was terrified of what I was feeling. She was older, experienced, complicated, and I was 23, still figuring out who I was without her influence pulling me every which way. And she had history, too. I could see it in the quiet way she moved around her apartment, in the way she lingered on the old photographs by the window. I caught glimpses, a younger man laughing in sepia tones, a faded wedding picture she glanced at but didn't touch, a diary tucked beneath a stack of magazines. Her life was full, layered, and part of it had always been a world I couldn't step into, until now. "Do you ever regret it?" I asked, finally, unable to hold back. The words felt reckless, but I needed to know. She blinked. "Regret what?" "The choices you've made. The things you didn't do." My heart thumped too loudly in my chest. Her lips pressed together. She looked away, toward the corner of the room where sunlight streaked through the blinds, dust motes dancing like tiny secrets. "Sometimes, but regret is heavy. You learn to carry it without letting it crush you." I nodded, feeling like she'd just given me a key to a door I wasn't supposed to enter. I wanted to reach for it, even knowing it might close on my fingers. A pause. The silence between us wasn't empty. It was full of almosts, of things neither of us dared say aloud. My hand itched to brush against hers, to feel that warmth again. And then, somehow, without planning it, our fingers met over the ring. A fleeting touch, brief enough to be denied, but long enough to ignite something neither of us could ignore. She looked at me then, really looked, and I swear I saw recognition flicker in her eyes. Not the polite acknowledgement of a neighbor or friend, but a quiet, dangerous acknowledgement of desire, of longing, of something unspoken that had been simmering far longer than either of us had admitted. For a second, time paused. I wanted to say something clever, something that would anchor us in this moment. But words felt useless. Instead, I just let my hand rest lightly against hers, letting the tension speak for us. Somewhere in that simple touch, everything changed. The risk, the age gap, the past we carried, it didn't matter. Not yet. And yet, in the corner of my mind, I knew nothing about this would be simple, that I almost kissed her that night. I can still feel it. The heat of her gaze, the faint scent of vanilla, and something deeper, like a memory I wanted to live inside. My hand lingered against hers, and for a heartbeat, it felt like the world had shrunk to that one trembling touch. Then, a knock at the door. Sharp, unexpected. My chest sank. "Who's that?" I whispered, stepping back, trying to shove down the heat creeping across my face. Her eyes widened. It's just my neighbor." Don't move." Her hand trembled slightly as she guided me to the couch, away from the door. I could see the tension coiling in her shoulders, her spine stiff as if ready to flee. The doorknob rattled. I wanted to curl into myself, disappear, anything to avoid the way my heart hammered in my ears. She went to answer, but hesitated. Her eyes met mine, wide, conflicted, and somehow apologetic. That glance alone nearly undid me. "It's just him," she said again. Her voice was soft, careful. The door swung open. A man's voice, casual, familiar. "Hey, thought I'd drop by." I froze. The energy between us shifted instantly, charged with something unspoken. My stomach twisted. Another layer of reality, another reminder that what we had, what I wanted, was forbidden. I wanted to retreat. I wanted to tell her I'd leave, that I'd vanish before we destroyed something neither of us could undo. But every instinct screamed to stay, to fight for this pull I couldn't name, but couldn't deny. He didn't notice me at first. I stayed in the shadows, watching her, the way she smiled, the careful tilt of her head, the way her eyes softened when she recognized him. And then, just like that, the tension snapped. I saw the ring in her hand, a flash of vulnerability she hadn't meant to show anyone else. "Is that—" he started, but she cut him off. "Nothing," she said, lightly, almost brushing it away. But I saw the flicker in her expression, the hesitation, the guilt. I wanted to speak, to say something that would anchor us, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I sank into the couch, my gaze locked on her, memorizing every subtle movement. The way her fingers twisted the ring, the slight bite of her lip, the tension in her jaw. All of it spoke to me louder than any confession ever could. When the neighbor left, finally, I exhaled a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. She sank onto the couch beside me, closer than necessary, closer than safe. My hand hovered, wanting to touch her, wanting to claim a moment that could never fully belong to either of us. "Sorry," she whispered. Her voice was low, intimate, almost shaky. "I didn't mean," I shook my head. "Don't apologize. Because I knew we shouldn't be here. Because I knew the consequences of this. Age, past, risk, but also because I didn't care. Not right now." And yet, as I leaned just a fraction closer, our shoulders brushing, I felt it, the danger, the pull, the undeniable gravity of us. We were teetering on something we both knew could burn, and neither of us could look away. The doorbell rang again. Neither of us moved. I hadn't meant to follow her home that night. I told myself it was coincidence, a chance to see if she was okay after the neighbor incident. But the truth? I couldn't stay away. I hadn't stopped thinking about her all day. The way her fingers brushed mine, the way her eyes held something I didn't understand yet. Something dangerous. She opened the door before I could knock. Her face lit up, relieved, surprised, cautious all at once. I could see it in the tight line of her lips, the quick glance over her shoulder, the way her hand lingered on the doorknob. "You're still here," she said, and I heard the question hiding in the words. I had to see you," I admitted. And the words were heavier than I expected, like carrying my chest out in the open. "I can't not." Her eyes softened and then narrowed. Something shifted. Fear? Anger? Desire? I couldn't tell, and maybe that was what made it worse. "I shouldn't," she started, but her voice faltered. She stepped back, letting me inside, and the air between us felt thick, almost combustible. We sat on opposite ends of the couch, too far and too close all at once. My hands trembled, itching to reach across the space. My mind raced, don't, but my heart betrayed me. "You're too much," she whispered finally, barely audible. Her voice was rough, almost guilty. "Too much," I echoed, and the incredulity in my tone wasn't just for show. I wanted her to say no, to push me away, but part of me, maybe the part that had been aching since the first moment I saw her, needed her to lean in. "I mean, I can't," she said, looking down at her hands, twisting the ring between her fingers. "You're young. Too young. I am complicated. My life isn't." I stood abruptly, cutting her off, stepping closer despite every warning I'd ever given myself. "I don't care about age. I don't care about complications." My voice was low and tense. "I care about this," I said, gesturing vaguely between us, to the space charged with everything we weren't supposed to touch. Her chest rose and fell quickly. Her eyes flicked to mine, then away. "It's dangerous," she said, and I felt the words like a slap and a spark at the same time. Dangerous, yes, but thrilling too. I could see it then, the tiny shift in her posture, the bite of her lip, the way her shoulders tensed, the tremor in her fingers as she fiddled with the ring. Every micro movement screamed at me. She wanted me too, just as badly. And I wanted to tell her, no, to show her, but the words got caught in my throat. The energy between us was electric, unbearably close. We leaned in without moving, our breaths mingling, every second stretching impossibly long. Then her phone buzzed on the table, a sharp reminder of the world outside, of responsibility, of reason. She froze. My hand was inches from hers. My heart stopped. I didn't move. And for the first time, I realized this wasn't about hesitation. It was about what we couldn't take back, about the line we were crossing just by standing here, inching closer. One wrong step, one careless word, one touch, and nothing would ever be the same. I could see it in her eyes, fear, desire, and a truth neither of us could deny. And then the moment hung there, suspended, impossible to escape. I thought we had a moment. I thought the world had narrowed to just her and me, the pull between us raw and undeniable. But life never lets you have what you want without complication. It was the next morning. I arrived at her apartment, heart already racing from a night of imagined closeness, ready to say something real to bridge the gap we'd been teetering over. I knocked softly. No answer. I tried the door. Locked. Confused, I pressed my ear to it, and then I heard it, a voice that made my stomach turn. "I can't believe you." Her voice low, urgent, panicked. I didn't want him to find out. I didn't know what else to do. Another voice answered. Male. Deep, measured. I froze. My fingers clenched the doorframe. My pulse was deafening. It wasn't her neighbor. It wasn't some casual friend. It was someone from her past. Someone I hadn't met. Someone whose presence now made everything between us feel exposed, fragile. I pulled back, my mind scrambling. Should I knock? Should I run? Should I pretend I hadn't heard? But the words, her words, cut through me like glass. I didn't want him to find out. Find out what? The door opened suddenly, and she was there, cheeks flushed, eyes wide with panic. "You weren't supposed to hear that," she whispered, the words trembling. I didn't mean to," I said, heart hammering, throat dry. "What who?" She hesitated, like the wrong answer might destroy us, like speaking too much might undo the fragile connection we'd built. "It's complicated," she said finally. "Someone from my past." I know. I interrupted, more sharply than I wanted. My hands curled into fists. I heard enough. Her gaze dropped. Guilt pooled in the depths of her eyes. "I didn't want you to." I stepped back, suddenly aware of everything I'd been ignoring. The danger, the risk, the boundaries. But even as my chest ached with anger and confusion, I couldn't let her go. Not now. "I can't just walk away," I admitted, voice low, urgent. "Not after everything." Her lips trembled, and she reached for the ring she'd shown me. "I didn't mean for it to be like this." But words were useless. The truth was in the air between us, thick and impossible to ignore. Betrayal? Maybe. Fear? Definitely. Desire? Still there, simmering like a wound that refused to heal. I stepped closer, ignoring the ache of uncertainty, ignoring the risk of getting hurt. "Whatever this is, whatever's out there," I said, "we face it together. I'm not letting it ruin us before it's even started." Her eyes searched mine, and I could see the turmoil. Part of her wanted to resist, to protect herself, to run. But another part, the part that had lingered in my presence all night, the part that had touched my hand over the ring, the part that couldn't deny the pull, hesitated. And in that pause, I felt the fragile thread that connected us stretch, almost breaking, almost impossible to hold on to. The doorbell rang. Again. This time, I knew we weren't just teetering on the edge anymore. Something, or someone, was coming that could change everything. The apartment felt smaller than it ever had, the air thick with unsaid words and decisions hovering over us. I stood near the window, hands stuffed in my pockets, trying to anchor myself. My chest ached, not from running, not from fear, but from wanting her so badly I could taste it. She came to me slowly, barefoot, the ring glinting in her hand like it had been waiting for this moment. Her eyes were wide, searching, raw. We shouldn't," she started, and I saw the tremor in her voice, the way her jaw clenched against wanting to say more. "I know." I interrupted, softer this time. "But I can't pretend I don't feel it. I can't pretend you don't make everything feel alive." My words were clumsy, reckless, but they were real. I could see her breathe a little faster, her fingers curling around the ring, the symbol of all the walls we'd been tiptoeing around. Her lips parted, and for a second, I thought she'd tell me to leave, that she'd pull away, that the past, the age, the risk would win. But then she stepped closer, close enough that I could see the flicker of desire in her pupils, the soft catch in her breath, the tiny shiver that betrayed her calm. I'm scared, she admitted, voice low. Scared of what this could mean. Scared of losing myself, or you, or everything I thought I had under control. Me too, I whispered, and somehow, saying it out loud made the ache lighter, more bearable. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. She swallowed, and I saw the conflict play across her face, the tug-of-war between reason and something deeper, something messy and irrepressible. She let her hand brush mine over the ring again, deliberately this time, a silent agreement that we were crossing lines we'd only dared to approach before. I closed the distance, slow, deliberate, savoring the tension, the hesitation, the danger. Her fingers tightened around mine, not pulling away, not letting go. I don't care about the rest, I said, voice raw. I care about us. Right here, right now. And in that confession, the apartment seemed to exhale with us. We didn't kiss yet. Not fully, but our foreheads brushed, breaths mingled, and for the first time, I felt her walls crumble just enough to see the woman underneath. Real, vulnerable, and yearning. Promise me, she whispered, almost to herself. Promise me we'll be honest. No more hiding. No more half-truths. I promise, I said, and meant it with every pulse in my body. We stood there, inches apart, hearts hammering in sync, both aware of the precariousness of this moment. The risk hadn't disappeared. The world outside still waited to challenge us. But for now, we had chosen each other. The phone buzzed again, a message, a call, but we ignored it. Our fingers intertwined, a silent pact stronger than any words. And yet, somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew this was only the beginning. Because love, real, messy, impossible love, doesn't arrive quietly. It storms in, demands everything, and leaves you holding the pieces, wondering what comes next. And we were ready to find out that we didn't rush. After the storm of words, confessions, and near misses, we simply existed in the quiet glow of her apartment, letting the world outside wait. The sunlight had softened through the blinds, dust motes floating lazily in the warm air, and for the first time, it felt like we belonged in that suspended moment. I traced the outline of her hand with my thumb, over the ring that had started it all, and she leaned slightly into me, a small, deliberate weight that grounded me more than I expected. No words were needed. Our silence was full enough, full of apologies, promises, confessions we'd already made in trembling touches and shared breaths. Do you think it'll ever be easy? She asked softly, a smile tugging at the corner of her lips. Not a smirk, not sarcasm, but the kind of smile that carries both hope and caution. I shook my head, grinning despite the lingering tension. No, I said honestly, easy isn't worth it. What we have, it's worth the risk. Her laugh was low, hesitant but genuine. It bounced around the apartment, filling spaces that had felt hollow before. Worth the risk, she echoed, and I caught the way her eyes shimmered. A vulnerability I hadn't seen before, paired with strength I'd always admired. We talked, slowly, about small things at first, books on her shelves, a song she liked, the way she made coffee on lazy mornings. Nothing dramatic, but everything mattered. Every shared glance, every lingering brush of hands was a reminder that this, us, was real. Tangible. Fragile, yes, but ours. Hours passed without noticing. And then, in that ordinary, perfect moment, I realized something. The risk wasn't in loving her. The risk was in pretending we could live without acknowledging it. The risk was letting fear decide our story for us. I don't want to hide anymore, I said finally. Her eyes met mine, and I saw the same thought mirrored in them. Then don't, she whispered. And that was it. No grand gestures, no dramatic declarations. Just two people deciding to stop running from what they'd always wanted. We didn't need more. The ring lay between us, silent witness to our choice, to the boundary we'd crossed, and the trust we'd built. Outside, the city moved on. Neighbors walked by, cars honked, life hummed along, relentless. But inside, we had carved a space that was ours. Messy, complicated, unpredictable, but ours. I leaned in, brushing my forehead against hers. "So we try." She smiled, breath hitching just slightly. "We try." And for once, trying felt like enough. Because love didn't have to be perfect. It just had to be real. We sat there, fingers intertwined, hearts beating too fast, but together. The future was uncertain. There would be challenges, misunderstandings, days when a world felt too heavy. But right now, at this exact moment, we were exactly where we were supposed to be. I pressed my lips to her temple, softly, gently, a silent promise. And I couldn't help but wonder, would we ever stop feeling the thrill of this risk? Could we survive the world outside without letting it break us? Or was this the kind of love that only existed in moments like this, fleeting but unforgettable? For now, none of that mattered. We had each other, and somehow that was enough.